Yeah, last thing, have you seen Owen Benjamin going off on Twitter? And I really hope that I really wish that like Witsit and you and uh Dave with I don't know, like I don't see you guys active on Twitter, but I honestly feel like it'd be a waste of time, honestly, because it's just like a bunch of like trolls and bots. But last thing, Flat Earth Dave on that health kick looks great, dude. Like looking great. But yeah, thank you very much, man.
All right, you're welcome. Yeah, take it easy. Yeah. I have seen Owen a little bit, but not a lot, not as much as I used to watch him. He did a weird thing, told kind of like a lie about me on a show that just didn't sit right with me because I was trying to help
Oh
him do
shit.
something.
Sorry,
But
dude.
again, it's here and there. I just haven't been watching him recently, but I have seen him on Twitter. Although he was going off on Kennedy recently, and he said that his wife committed suicide because of his
Oh, I
voice.
saw that. I saw
I'm
that.
like, holy shit, dude, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's just cold. Yeah. Anyway, if my
True.
wife ever committed suicide and then I had a bad voice like that, I would really hope somebody wouldn't think that that's a good joke. But anyway, what it
Yeah,
teaches
that
them.
was bad.
All right, take it easy.
All right, bro. Thank you.
We've got up next Alan Space Audits, I believe, or that's a nice. What is that? The Bear Nebula.
Yeah. Yep. The Big Bear Nebula in the sky, they call it.
Let me get the clock going. What's up, my friend? How are you?
I'm good, brother. How are you? I got some. I got a great little presentation here for you. If I can share my
Wait, how long?
screen.
I don't even need to do the clock because the clock's messing up right now.
Yeah. Let me see. Share
Share
screen.
screen on there. Why is this not working to reset to 3 minutes?
Hopefully.
Oh, maybe you have to stop this one first. Okay, this one. There we go. All right, so I see you in there. Let me add you. Okay. It's in Chinese.
What's that?
Maybe not. So it looks like it's in Chinese.
No, it's in English.
Oh, shit, I was trying to get better to look at it. Wait, remove. Where is it? Hold on. Let me see this one. Okay. I will kind of zoom in on it a little bit. And you should be good.
I can zoom in a little more. How's that?
Oh, yeah, that'd be it. Yeah, now we can see it a little bit. We can read it better.
Okay, cool. So this is proof of an absolute reference frame, proof of a preferred direction for the propagation of light. All the etheric effects that we've been hypothesizing about recently are kind of coming into fruition, and how they've obscured this. So you know how we're often told that GPS is the greatest proof of special relativity, and without accounting for special relativistic effects, GPS simply wouldn't work. It would be inaccurate if they weren't accounting for time dilation, length contraction, and all these sorts of things, right?
Lies.
Yeah, right. Atomic clocks coming out of sync at different gravitational potentials, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here we have a paper from 2002 from a guy named Ruyong Wang. And I've been looking into his work recently. He is the same guy who linearized the Sagnac effect. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the Michelson-Morley effect, the Michelson-Morley experiment, they say was a null result, and that the speed of light was, shown to be invariant, and that the experiment was due to instrumental error. And now modern interferometry, tends towards zero as well, but there's reasons for that we can get into. But anyway, so they do have the Sagnac effect, right? But they say that because the device is rotating, that it's a non-inertial frame, so therefore special relativistic effects don't apply to it. So the first two postulates of special relativity being all inertial reference frames are equally valid, and that there's no preferred reference frame. And the second postulate is that the speed of light is invariant in all reference frames, independent of the motion of the receiver or the thing emitting the light source, right? So they got this framework here, based on reference frames and all this, and GPS absolutely demolishes it. So here we go with a quick introduction into the mathematics that they use for calculating distance in GPS. So this is the range measurement equation. It is the absolute value of r sub r times t sub r minus r sub s times t sub s equals c equals c times t sub r minus t sub s. And what all these are, t sub s is the instance of transmission of the signal of the source. T sub r is the instant of reception of the receiver. T sub s times t sub r sub s times t sub s is the position of the source at transmission time, and r sub r times t sub r is the position of the receiver at reception time. So what you're going to notice here is that this isn't calculating distance. This is calculating the time interval between when a signal is sent and received, and then they're subtracting that from the speed of light. So to quick recap on what exactly that means real quick, I'll just jump ahead and explain that while the range equation is fresh in everyone's head. So the range P, the absolute value of the reception time and the receive time, is not the distance between 2 points in the traditional meaning. Traditionally, the distance between 2 points is the distance between 2 points at a given time. So that would be d sub 1 equals the absolute value of basically the same thing. And that would be how they would derive distance. And the range P corresponds to the distance of the transmission of the satellite at transmission time, T sub S at the position of the reception antenna for the receiver, right? So basically what they're doing here is they have a preferred coordinate system where they're subtracting the speed of light. Now, interestingly enough, electromagnetic wave propagation that goes west to east propagates faster than electromagnetic propagation going west to east. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. West to east is faster and east to west is slower.
West to east is faster. What?
It propagates faster.
Okay, gotcha.
So they're saying, so what he's
all
saying,
things, light, radio waves, everything.
Yeah. What he's saying here is that the speed of light is faster in those directions. So when they take the local Sagnac effect and like a little interferometer, right? They're saying like this is like an isolated event or whatever kind of thing. But then here they are accounting for this same effect in GPS, right? So this is the large scale application of that, right? So to continue on real quick, so the preferred reference frame for this equation is what's called the Earth-centered inertial reference frame, and what that is, that's the perspective of being at the center of the hypothetical globe, right, where you're not experiencing any rotation and no motion of the Earth, right? So from this perspective, there is relative motion on the Earth. So, i.e., a person stationary on the Earth would still be experiencing Earth rotation, and a person in motion would be experiencing motion, a linear motion in addition to the Earth rotation, right? So this would be reflected in the mathematics, right? So check this out. When there's a stationary source emitting a GPS signal and a moving source emitting a GPS signal, when the moving source intersects with the stationary source and they emit the signal at the same time, a stationary receiver will receive the signal from both things at the same time, meaning that the speed of light, is independent of the thing emitting it, right? So that's consistent with the postulates of special relativity. But when you do the same thing, but inversely, right? So when you have a stationary source emitter and a stationary receiver and a moving receiver, and the moving receiver intersects with the stationary receiver and a GPS signal is sent at that moment of intersection, the stationary receiver receives the GPS signal first, and the moving receiver receives it second. So there's actually a preferred order of who gets the information first, and so what that's basically implying, right? So if you remember back to their coordinate system, they say that the stationary receiver is actually in motion due to the Earth rotation, right? Now, if Einstein's theory was true, and these postulates were correct, these two gentlemen would both receive the signal at the same time, irrespective of the guy being actually stationary, right? Because the two motions are the same, right? They're both linear motions. So the fact that the stationary guy gets the information first means that there's a preferred, recipient for the information, and that means that guy is truly at rest with respect to what's actually moving, and that's the ether. So the difference between an ether rotation and an Earth rotation, this is merely a coordinate system transformation that they've obscured, right? So the actual coordinate system that they use, this ECI, is actually similar to what are called it's Galilean relativity, where it's an absolute reference frame to which relative motion is measured against, right? So they're deriving the accuracy of GPS, which, by the way, using this equation with its proper reference frame, is accurate down to the millimeter. So with no corrections, like automatically adjusting for the preferred propagation speed of light relative to the latitude, actually, too. So and the way, so it gets even better. It gets, well, worse for them, good for us. So remember back how they or how they've co-opted this effect is that they say that they're accounting for Earth rotation. This effect is due to the linear velocity of the receiver, right? So that's how they're disguising it, right? But if that were true, that they would also have to account for the linear velocity of the Earth's rotation. I'm sorry, of the Earth's orbit, right? And this is noted in a couple papers here uh, that I have cited. I have a little GIF here. I'll include images and everything for you to disseminate to people. But basically, what these people are saying here is, hey, it's really weird that we don't have to account for Earth's orbital velocity. And keep in mind, these are two linear motions, so they're rotating into this essentially on the orbital path. So they would have to make further compensations for that 66,000 kilometers a second that isn't happening, right? So you know how the Michelson-Morley experiment was a null result in terms of it didn't give the 30 kilometers a second, which would have been required for the Earth to be actually moving around the sun. So GPS actually specifically doesn't account for Earth motion either. So it's all with respect to a stationary, non-rotating Earth. And then
Doesn't surprise me.
yeah, and then so the actual motion, like I said, is just the ether wind, right? So this is like hands down an absolute body bag to everything, right? So keep in mind, special relativity and all these mathematical hypotheticals are based on what are called reference frames. And a reference frame is just a mathematical presupposition, right? So what are the two presuppositions for special relativity to be true? All inertial reference frames are equally valid, and there's no preferred reference frame, and the speed of light is independent of the motion of the observer or the thing emitting it. You know, it's so anyway.
Let me see if you get this question right. Let me ask you a question from all your research. Can I point to a spot in the sky and say the Big Bang happened there? Or
no, you're not you're not allowed to do that. It happened everywhere and nowhere at once. How dare you assume what happened inside of a singularity, sir?
There you go. Yes.
So
it happened everywhere.
So real quick though, the back to the presuppositions, right? This is all based on these reference frames of what would happen in these hypothetical frames, and the laws of physics have to conform to these reference frames that no one's ever been in, right? But the fundamental, provable, measurable, repeatable accuracy of GPS depends on the initial reference frame to which all other reference frames are derived. That there is a varying speed of light. East or west to east is faster, and east to west is slower. So all the people that were thanking Bob and all these things, like this is like this this not only refutes their framework for the interpretation of light, like it's very easy to understand. You know, so even where they'll get into quote unquote explanations of trying to interpret the Sagnac effect through relativistic means, it's already invalidated. So it's already bye-bye. It's already gone. We provably, like, GPS works off of this technology. To deny this this is the ether, and they covered it up by saying it's Earth motion. Like, this doesn't make any sense in their paradigm. They would have to account for Earth's orbital velocity, for example. So
that could even account for water actually going down in the opposite direction in each area.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen. I mean, I know that.
No. So check this out. It absolutely would. So if there's an ether vortex at the center of the North Pole, right? So assuming like a Gleason's map, for example, there's an ether vortex extending out over the plane from that. When you're at the northern hemisphere section, right? That's going to experience a translation of motion in accordance with or in accordance to the west to east motion, right? And then as you get further out on the plane, the ether vortex is going to be higher, so there's a loss of that translation of motion. So as it gets closer to the ground, that loss is going to create a counter rotation, right? So that's going to produce a literal Coriolis effect in the tropical storms. Like, so for something that's really big and high in the sky, it's like that's definitely it's definitely going to get a translation of motion effect that would definitely cause that. So when people are like storms, you have a preferred clockwise counterclockwise rotation in their respective hemisphere. Yeah, they absolutely do. But the same exact thing would happen with an ether vortex and an ether wind, with being the translation of motion of that vortex. So these effects are indistinguishable from what they call so-called Earth rotation. And as I said earlier, it's a mere coordinate system transformation to hide ether wind and attribute it to Earth rotation, and that's what they've done. Like I'm reading these papers here. Like for example, this guy. So similarly to how I'm saying that there's a stationary non-rotating Earth with respect to a rotating ether, when this guy's saying, trying to fit it into the heliocentric paradigm, he's saying maybe there's a local stationary ether that's entrained with the Earth, and then the Earth is rotating through that, and that's causing this varying propagation thing. And then because it's localized to the Earth, that explains why they don't have to account for the orbital velocity. I mean, they're effed, bro. Like if people understood, if like more people,
understood, yes.
Yeah, got out on that, like. It's literally like their whole framework is gone. It's gone, and this isn't like cherry pick citations either. So these are different papers here for this one. I have 4 different citations for this one. I got a whole thing on the varying speed of light. These are known effects. So even before GPS came along, there was a varying speed of light that had been shown, and there's a couple guys that started their own publication because they realized that the peer review system was pretty much BS. So they started their own system called Galilean Electrodynamics, and in some of their publications, like they talk about this varying speed of light. And one of the guys even published it in a physics journal saying, like, I'll bet anyone right here just cite, or I'll pay $3,000 if you can cite an experiment that shows that the speed of light is the same going west to east that it is going east to west within 50 nanoseconds. And he's like, to this day there are no takers. And that was back in the 90s. I mean, this is like, this is just things that people just haven't really woken up to or got on board with, because they're all shown this they're all shown the relativistic framework. Once they have that lens of interpretation, any varying speed of light, they can just start invoking different quote unquote relativistic effects. And so back to real quick on the satellite coordinate system transformation. So the initial sorry. So the original coordinate system that they that everything derives accurate distance under, when they transfer out of that, that's when you can get into things like hiding distances or adding, spherical excess and stuff like that, because they're in a completely different coordinate system. They just need to make it match like in local areas, right? So like in a city, like there would be a different coordinate system for that. It would be more accurate. And then if you were traveling over a long distance, highway span or whatever, they could adjust distances like that. And you would think, you're traveling X amount of distance between this city. And then when it matches locally to the thing, you assume the whole thing is, but you don't realize that it's literally doing constant calculations of coordinate. It's just coordinate system transformations that are all based off of an original preferred directional speed. Thank you for the time. I appreciate it. Sorry I went a little long.
You do great work. I think if we could ever get your stuff down to bite-sized chunks somehow, it could really take off, because there's lots of great information there. But I know I struggle to stay with you, so some people might.
You're good, man. There's I linked a video of a recent video I did on it, presentation I did live. But yeah, I'm going to be breaking this down more and explaining it. I'm still doing the interferometry experiment. Presentation. That's going great, by the way. Awesome. Everything's completely in our favor. Surprise, right? At this point. So, thanks.
All right, talk to you soon.
Peace.
Sacred knowledge in the hizzle.
Yo, what's really good?
What's up? Yo, MTV Raps.